as you can see, where it gets its name, the Blue-Ringed Octopus, those are quite often used as a way to intimidate something that's bigger than itself by just making itself really bright and vibrant and being like, don't eat me, I'm not good to eat. And because what they feed on is crabs, small fish and invertebrates. But quite often, of course, when I said about them having a powerful venom, it's probably stronger than most kinds of snakes. And of course, its venom is powerful enough that it can paralyze a crab in seconds. But unfortunately, it is very dangerous to people, because there have been instances of people accidentally picking up Blue-Ringed Octopus and then being bitten, and only to die hours later without even realising that they'd been bitten. Because it's so small, its parrot-like beak, you can't even feel it biting, so you don't even know you've been bitten and envenomated. And because it's so small, this doesn't have an anti-venom, and this animal's venom is probably even more powerful than cyanide. And it can, in extreme cases, cause blood pressure to increase, which can make you go into cardiac arrest. And it can even make your nervous system completely shut down and stop your breathing within an hour. And of course, there are people working to study Blue-Ringed Octopus and some people are even trying to extract venom from it to work on an anti-venom for it. Because this animal, although it's small and very, very beautiful, it is one of the most potentially dangerous animals on the planet to human beings. And it's still, to the best of my knowledge, this animal doesn't have anti-venom. So, small and beautiful, but very, very deadly. Of course, here is the range of the Blue-Ringed Octopus in Australia. Now, the next animals I'm going to show you are some of the largest of their kind and some of the most incredible animals. They are ghost bats. Now, ghost bats are some of the largest carnivorous bats in the world. If you look at them right there, you can actually see where they get the ghost bat name. They do look like little phantoms. Also, the pale grey, almost white fur on the body makes them look like a spirit. But also, it's like the membrane of their wings is very, very thin and transparent. It almost looks like a ghostly cloak. Those struts in between the membranes are fingers and hand bones, and of course they have enormous ears which they use to echolocate, because bats can give off high frequency clicks that are way too high for the human ear to hear. They use sonar mainly to catch their prey. It's very much like on a submarine, like you've probably seen it in the movies. There's a sound that goes bop, bop, and disappears off into the distance and bounces back off any object in front of it. On a bat, they can use that to build up a kind of mental picture of their surroundings, and they can bounce off something even as small as a midge. But ghost bats don't just eat insects. In fact, as you can see here, they have enormous teeth, and they use those to bite through the head and the neck of not just insects, but lizards, frogs, other bats, birds, small mammals. They really are a flying nightmare. But, of course, while bats all over the world have been seen as a source of fear. I mean, I mainly blame the person who wrote Dracula. Ghost bats are not so dangerous to people at all. I mean, but if you were a frog, a lizard, or another bat, or a bird, or a small mammal, this would probably be the creature of your worst nightmares. And of course, the ghost bat is also a protected species, so you can't go around actually just trying to catch ghost bats. You need special permission to even get remotely close to them. But, I mean, a lot of the time, because ghost bats, like all bats, almost all bats, are nocturnal, which means they're active at night. And as I mentioned, they're no danger to us as humans, but as I did mention as well, if you were a lizard or a frog or another bat, bird or a small mammal, this would be your living nightmare. Also, another thing that always fascinates me about bats is their skeleton. They are the only truly flying mammal. And of course, they're the only mammal that can use powered flight, while many other mammals, like flying squirrels, can glide. Bats use powered flight. Just like with birds, and their skeletons are actually sort of like a bird's. In fact, their bones are hollow with a honeycomb-like structure, just like a bird. But as you can see, they're not covered in feathers. Here is the range of the ghost bat. Now, the next animal I'm going to show you is probably the largest carnivorous marsupial on the planet. It is the Tasmanian Devil. Now, Tasmanian Devils are found in Australia. In fact, they're probably about the size of a staffy dog, but they are, of course, the largest carnivorous marsupial, and they have probably one of the strongest bites of any mammal, and they are said to be some of the loudest animals in the world, and that's actually how they got their name, the Tasmanian Devil, because early settlers in Australia heard their screaming and their wailing and thought it was some kind of spirit ghost off in the wilderness. But it turns out it was these guys, and the reason why they're so grumpy is all about dominance and who gets the best bits of meat. Tasmanian devils are mostly scavengers. Like, a lot of their prey is already dead when they find it, but they will eat lizards, frogs, some small mammals, birds, reptiles, pretty much anything they can sink their teeth into. And because whenever people have seen them feeding, quite often you hear a loud crunching as they get a good hold of like bone or sinew, and just their powerful teeth make absolute mincemeat of it. And they have an incredible sense of smell, so they can pick up the smell of carrion or prey from over a kilometre away. And once they find a food source, they give a sort of growl to ward off other Tasmanian devils. But if the warning is ignored, which quite often it is, they go into a maniacal rage and start fighting. And as you can probably see here, probably the most famous Tasmanian devil is Taz from Looney Tunes. I have to say that they actually did get a little bit of that accurate with Taz as a Tasmanian devil, because Tasmanian devils are quite crazy and very, very vocal. I mean, it's like their proportions are all wrong, with a massive head and a tiny little body. As you can see here from its skull, they have enormous canine teeth and stout cheek teeth called carnassials. And of course, when I said about that, they have one of the strongest bites of any animal. They could quite possibly take off my hand or make a right mess of my hand with just a few bites. And unfortunately, Tasmanian devils are classed as endangered. I mean, there are many reasons for that. I mean, just over 200 years ago, when Europeans arrived in Australia with livestock and guns, they decimated much of its unique wildlife. And the Tassie devils were hit very badly by this as well. But, of course, while that has restricted them from much of the mainland, so right now they're only found one of their only strongholds is on the island of Tasmania, given their name. Probably the thing that is most threatening them is a mysterious disease. It's like some kind of cancer that only affects Tasmanian devils, and it causes tumours to grow in their mouths and around their noses and their eyes, and that means that they have a lot of trouble keeping up with, like, just give me a second. And so the Tasmanian devils are being affected by this cancer, which was only discovered in the 1990s, and we are still trying to work on a vaccine for it. But of course, the Tassie devils have been reduced in numbers by that disease, but also. I mean, there is hope for Tassie devils. In fact, just about a few years ago, Tasmanian devils were reintroduced to mainland Australia, and there's actually been a special project set up to try and save the Tassie devil and bring them back to the mainland for the first time in decades. And they actually have built like special enclosures for them with the same amount of wide territory they need to survive, and also put in the natural prey for them, and just see how they get on while on the mainland. And hopefully, if that breeding project works, and also if we can actually make a vaccine for the Tasmanian devil cancer that has been destroying their numbers in the wild, we could hopefully see this crazy creature come back from extinction on the mainland of Australia. Of course, this is much of the Tasmanian devil's range, well, a lot of their historic range around Australia, but as I mentioned earlier, their current stronghold is the island of Tasmania, just down here. But as I also said, they have been reintroduced to the mainland around here. So, with hope, they could have the Tasmanian devil coming back to mainland Australia. And now, the next animal I'm going to show you is another bird of Australia, but it's also a very popular pet. It is the budgie. Now, budgies, as many of you probably know, are a very popular pet in today's society. But they do actually come from Australia. They are also probably Australia's most hardy bird. And one of the reasons for that is because where they live, like out in the deserts, in the outback of Australia, it tends to be very, very hot and very, very dry, and sometimes it doesn't rain for years. And so budgies will all band together and fly out to search for water. And when they find water, they can stay there for days on end to quench their thirst. And of course, there's another reason they travel in big flocks, because birds of prey like hawks and falcons prey on budgies